We are here today to address something that has impacted every Kentucky family and small business: rising prices due to inflation. While the challenge is temporary, it has now reached a 40-year high directly due to the effect of a once in every 100-year pandemic that has now stretched on for more than 2 years. Our families are tired. And while we are all so collectively excited about our future in electric vehicles, in agri-tech, in announcing more new jobs than ever before, many are struggling to meet basic needs. Prices are simply too high. What we do not need is partisan reform. What we must have is public relief. We can provide relief responsibly, because while inflation has soared, so has our economy here in Kentucky. We are seeing an economic explosion like never before in my lifetime. That, coupled with the fiscal strength demonstrated by my administration, we propose the best state budget in the last 25 to 30 years. Last year, the Commonwealth shattered every economic development record on the books that included $11.2 billion in new private sector investment, 18,000 new jobs at the second highest wage in our history. Even better, the streak continues with what I believe is the second best January ever, with 1,400 new jobs, $660 million in new investment. And over last year and into January, the types of jobs we are creating give us a promising future. Jobs of the future, with nearly 600 new jobs in agriculture technology and 6,000 new jobs in the electric vehicle industry. And those numbers are going to significantly increase this year. Kentucky recently placed 7th overall in Site Selection Magazine's Business Climate Rankings, 5th in their Prosperity Cup, and it's positioning us among the national leaders for business climate and new business locations. At the same time, we saw an all-time record-setting budget surplus in fiscal year 2021, and we've entered 2022 with an estimated $1.9 billion more in general fund for this next budget than before. So we have more than ample resources to both provide relief and to make necessary and state-changing investments. Even better, some of our toughest critics are even seeing now that the place we're going, the future, is so bright that S&P Global Ratings revised Kentucky's financial outlook to positive. First time since January 2007, a rating agency has had our rating as positive. And we have the largest rainy day fund in the history of the Commonwealth. The list of positive accomplishments goes on and on when it comes to our fiscal strength and our economic momentum. Our future is hopeful and it's exciting, but I get that our present is hard. Both from a pandemic, the last 2 years, they've been tough. And we're now experiencing the most significant inflation that we have seen in decades. That makes it tougher for our families to get by. And it threatens our small businesses if people can't afford to continuing purchasing things that they need. I've had enough. We've all had enough. And that is why today I'm providing relief on vehicle property taxes. And along with Representative Angie Hatton, we are proposing a temporary 1% drop in Kentucky sales tax. Under our proposal, Kentuckians will see tax relief of approximately $1.2 billion, of which $873 million is directly related to sales tax savings, and $340 million is from the reduction in vehicle property taxes. This will also benefit people in every income bracket and ensure that folks that are struggling to get what they need can continue, while others that are spending and helping to continue to grow our economy can do so. First, to immediately stop an increase in vehicle property taxes caused by soaring used car values, I'm signing an executive order that will result in savings for Kentuckians by stopping an increase in vehicle property taxes which in Kentucky rose nearly 40% last year. In simple terms, under this order that I'm going to sign right here in just a second, Kentuckians will pay a similar amount that they did last year. If they own the same vehicle and it's in the same condition and they're living in the same county, they will not pay taxes on the inflated value. The property valuation for the average motor vehicle in Kentucky rose from $8,006 to $11,162 in just 1 year. That abrupt change warrants today's action. Now, in asking why this action is being taken today, I will tell you that under Kentucky law, it's my belief that the General Assembly is the one that sets tax policy, is the one that sets how you determine tax policy on motor vehicles and other things. But for the first time last week, the Senate passed a joint resolution that, as opposed to saying, I do not have executive authority, which we've seen a lot of these last couple of years, they say I do have the power to do this. So if the legislature believes that I have the power to help Kentuckians, you bet I'm going to do it. And we're going to do it right here today. It's going to be effective immediately. And it's going to be effective for 2 years, giving us time for this inflation to subside and ultimately those values to come down. Those who've already paid their 2022 tax bill don't need to worry. They're going to be getting a refund from their local county clerk's office. So with that, we're going to sign this executive order providing what's $370+ million in relief to Kentuckians. You want to join me, Andrew?
Sure.
All right. Next, my administration is working with House Democratic Caucus Whip Representative Angie Hatton, who will be filing legislation to temporarily cut the sales tax from 6% to 5% during the next fiscal year from July 1, 2022, so we have time to prepare for it and implement it through June 30th, 2023. We'll be able to, with a session next year, determine where we are in Kentucky, where inflation is, and consider further lengthening that at that time. But this historic sales tax cut will help families until the high U.S. inflation rate retreats, which experts predict will fall back to around the 2% range by the end of 2022 and through 2023. The sales tax proposal decrease tax costs for families by more than 16%, as the U.S. inflationary rate is currently at 7.5%. We're talking about savings for every single family buying the things they need. We're talking about things costing less at Kentucky businesses and small businesses that need Kentuckians, even with things being a little more expensive, to continuing coming and buying their wares. This is something that helps not only our people, but our small businesses, and ensures that the benefit that Kentuckians are receiving is directly related to keeping our economy humming. It is a win-win. Now, a word of caution to those in Frankfort that are using evasive terms, vague terms, like comprehensive tax reform. That phrase has always meant one thing: raising the sales tax on everybody so that they could decrease income tax and corporate income tax on the wealthiest Kentuckians and companies that are already having their best years in decades. Those types of cuts, out-of-state corporations, don't benefit our Kentucky economy. People put them in their bank account instead of them being directly related to spending. They will not stimulate our economy, and they will not provide relief to people in every single income bracket, like this 1% reduction a reduction from 6% to 5% of the sales tax will. So why? Why would people in the midst of the highest inflation in decades want to put in a reform that makes things cost more, that makes people struggle even more? It doesn't make sense. And with a new economy coming in Kentucky that's so exciting, with industries of the future that are very different than the industries of the past, the time for any type of tax reform is as we step out of the challenges of our present and we step into our economy of the future, when we can actually have bipartisan conversations about what the future looks like, because the future jobs are here. Our families simply don't need partisan reform. They need relief. And under Representative Hatton's and my proposal, our families get relief as soon as we lower our sales tax. We can save families more than 16% in sales tax on each purchase. So if we are going to alter our tax structure, let's do it to address current inflation, to actually help our people regardless of their wealth. Let's do it in a way that'll make things cost less and help everybody's dollar go further. Right now, we can keep our economy moving, make historic investments in education, healthcare, and jobs of the future, all while providing relief to our families and small businesses. We have the resources to do so, and I urge every lawmaker to do what we're all supposed to: help the people in their community in the most effective and responsible way. I know one lawmaker that certainly agrees. That's Representative Angie Hatton.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to introduce this legislation that I believe will bring immediate help to the families in my district in Eastern Kentucky, but across the state. And in collaborating with the governor over the last couple of weeks, we were discussing what might bring some immediate relief. And while there's lots of talk about long-term, broader tax reform, and some of that is definitely needed, when we do such a thing, we have to keep in mind the people who actually need help. When I ran for this office, I ran to be a voice for the people who don't necessarily have a loud voice in Frankfort, who are drowned out by power and money, and who actually are the people who need help. My predecessor who held this office, Paul Mason, who was the state rep from Letcher County when I was growing up, used to always say, put that jam jar on a lower shelf where the little man can reach it. And hopefully this legislation is one step toward doing that. As the people in my district are racked with higher utility rates, higher unemployment rates, and inflation that they're battling in every single thing that they buy, hopefully this legislation is going to be a noticeable difference for them in their wallets and in their family's budget. And basically what the legislation does is that we'll lower the sales tax for 1 year, beginning July 1st this year, from 6% to 5%. We can look at it again in a year, see where we're at, see where the state budget's at, see if we are able to afford to continue that, or if it's even needed, if the inflation rate has come back down as predicted, and maybe it won't be needed. But in the meantime, to offset the higher costs of everything that my people are facing, I think this is a good step that could lead us in the right direction. And the exact wrong direction at this point would be passing a tax that raises sales tax. And so this is my version of what we can do now to help my people. The outlook for the state is great. Our economic forecast is phenomenal for the state of Kentucky, but we're not feeling it quite yet in Eastern Kentucky. And hopefully this will get us through this hard time when the downturn in the coal industry in Eastern Kentucky and all across the state in rural areas where folks are seeing higher unemployment rates, that this is something that we can do as a General Assembly. I want to thank the governor for helping me to promote this idea, and also thank my governor for the executive order that he just signed to lower motor vehicle tax rates. You know, we passed a bill in the House already, House Bill 6, that does a whole lot of this, not quite as much, but it was going a long way toward freezing the current rates of motor vehicle tax rates. And that is the most emails and calls that I'm getting from my district are folks worried about this as much as a 40% increase. That's based on global market shifts and supply and demand, supply chain issues that have made used cars be worth more than they used to be. So rather than depreciating this year, they've gone up. It's not something that the legislature did. It's not something that the governor did. This is a global issue, but we can do something about it. So in the House, we passed a bill already. That bill has been sitting in the Senate. I think it's sitting in A&R. A&R met this morning in the Senate, I believe, and they didn't take any action on it. So instead, appears to be some maybe election year shenanigans. Instead, the Senate passed a resolution directing the governor to do it. They could have already passed a bill, a similar bill, and it could, with an emergency clause, could already be in effect and people could be getting their refunds. But that's not what they chose to do. Instead, they chose to blame the situation on the governor and put it in his court. And thank goodness he picked up the ball and ran with it. So I'm grateful for the executive order that was signed today. I'm grateful that our governor cares about things that will help us immediately in the state, especially in my region. And personally, I don't care who gets the credit, and neither do the people in my district. We're just glad that it's happening, and thank goodness it's happening today.